Steve Holbrook, attorney, joins us. And Steve, how are you, sir?
Good evening, gentlemen. How are all y'all?
All right,
Steve.
you're not boycotting Christmas this year, are you?
Well, I'm not, but I have to say that if you go to Switzerland, you'll feel like you're having Christmas all through the summer. There's shooting matches going on everywhere you go.
Oh, wow.
All right, so they're always celebrating over there, is what you're saying.
That's right. We were there in July. The Swiss Rifles of Washington, D.C. Sandy Froman was one of our members who also went. And we went to the biggest rifle match in the world, and we had a great time shooting.
That's awesome. And I heard Sandy went out there. It was so cool because I saw some stuff she had posted about that. So that leads me, Steve, thank you for that segue. What's going on? There's a story that we saw about emotions and tradition clashing over anti-gun move. Supporters and opponents of a proposal aimed at limiting access to guns have launched their campaign ahead of a nationwide vote in February. What's going on over there?
Well, there will be a vote by the entire population. The vote basically is whether to continue their traditions, and I have to say several traditions are at stake. Individual gun ownership, the militia army. Switzerland was founded in 1291, and it's had these same institutions, which has protected the country, served it well, kept it out of world wars. When you turn 20, you automatically join the militia army. You're issued a service rifle. You keep it at home. And that way you can have instant mobilization. That took place in 1939, the day that Hitler invaded Poland. The Swiss announced mobilization, and they were ready to go to dissuade any kind of invasion. You didn't get that in France or Holland or those countries. And the initiative proposes to do away with that. They want to keep all the service rifles in central arsenals. They basically want to ban civilian gun ownership at the same time.
Uh-oh.
Difficult to own any kind of gun. There would be a central registry of the few guns that would be allowed. There'd have to be some kind of compelling need. But if you go there today, I mean, it's quite a different country. You see people carrying rifles on weekends. They're going to matches. It's just all over the country. They're saying in that country that foreigners think they're having a revolution on weekends, because every weekend other than the winter, there's matches going on everywhere.
So Steve, what is leading to? Has there been some catastrophic incident or incidents that's leading to them want to make this change? Why do they want to change things? It sounds like a fine tradition to me that's lasted for many, many years. Why are we looking at changing it?
Well, no, Switzerland's one of the most peaceful countries in the world. Boys and girls are in the shooting sports. You have very little crime. Most violent crime, frankly, is committed by foreigners. And there are occasional instances of misuse of a gun, which happens in any society, including the most restrictive. You have suicides, but you have them everywhere in the world. You have an extremely high suicide rate in Japan, which bans gun ownership. So there are, just like here in the U.S., if you have a tragedy, then it's exploited by people who want to ban guns. And they try to whip up the media, and they bring initiatives like this. But who supports it? Basically, the Socialist Party, some segments of it, not all of them, the Greens, basically anti-gun extremists. And who opposes it? It's basically traditional Swiss people. The news account mentioned center and rightist parties. But, I mean, I've met plenty of people in the Socialist Party in Switzerland, including politicians, who I met them at shooting matches. I mean, they don't go for this. And I think, although it's a danger, it's something that needs to be taken very seriously. I hope and pray that the Swiss people come out that day and vote it down so much that it gives extreme discouragement to others who would bring initiatives like that.
Steve, is there something like the NRA over in Switzerland? Who fights for the Swiss people's rights like this?
Actually, there's two organizations, and basically the same people are in them. There's the Swiss Shooting Federation, which is the larger group. It sponsors shooting matches constantly. Basically, it's like our NRA at large. And then there's also what we could call the equivalent to ILA, Institute for Legislative Action, which is called Protel. And that's group focuses solely on protecting the right to keep and bear arms. It does not sponsor shooting matches, but they're certainly present at all the shooting functions. So those are the two organizations that fight the hardest, but all traditional Swiss. I mean, look at it this way. Every man in Switzerland, look at the elderly generation, they all served in the militia army. And they're not about to vote to end that tradition. There are Swiss who basically don't like their own institutions. They engaged in the Swiss bashing back in the 1990s when you had a campaign in this country against Switzerland. The same ones who want to join the European Union, they want to be like Germany or Britain. And that's not the tradition there, and I'm hopeful that this is going to go down in flames.
So, Steve, once again, it's nothing catastrophic has happened. It's just some people that just kind of want to get in and kind of mess with things, even though things are fine the way they are.
Well, yeah, the same people who want to abolish private property or, institute various socialist measures. It's interesting. They go marching together. The anti-capitalists. It's another form of state control. That's why. State control of the economy, disarming the population, mistrusting the people. That's a big part of it as well, that in Switzerland the citizen is trusted by the state. And it's a federal republic. It's not a centralized kind of state like you have in Britain or France especially. And you have much more respect for the right to keep and bear arms there than virtually any country in the world. I mean, it's our sister republic. These are the two countries, together with Finland and a few others, that really gun ownership is such a strong liberty and such a strong tradition that other places in the world just don't compare.
I see. We'll definitely follow that story in the new year. Also, what do you? How does 2011 look for you and what you do? You're always a very busy man. How does your docket look in the next year?
Well, we'll have new challenges as usual. We're focused on implementing the Heller and McDonald cases in courts. For the first time, the right is respected by the Supreme Court by a slim margin. And we're trying to get the lower courts to go along with that. I mean, you've got a lot of resistance in the courts because the judicial system was basically a hotbed of anti-Second Amendment thought, frankly, just like many universities have been. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. And if I could just make a plug on the Swiss issue, I have published two books. Mm-hmm. It's called Target Switzerland. The other is called The Swiss and the Nazis, and they're both available. If you want to go to Amazon.com or wherever, these books focus on basically the armed citizen in World War II. Okay. And I think a lot of gun owners would be interested in that.
Last thing from me, Steve, what is your take on the Brian Aikens situation in New Jersey? And of course, we're all happy he's out. But if you were advising up there, what would you do to make sure this doesn't happen to someone else again?
Well, I wish that he had been pardoned. I mean, our prayers were with this guy who, a family man. If the listeners aren't aware of it, he was simply exercising his Second Amendment right. He had firearms in his possession, and he didn't have all the papers that New Jersey requires. And that's a state that we have a lot of work to do. The state law does not respect the Second Amendment. It's like New Jersey, New York, to some extent, Massachusetts, California. These are the states that are headed and have been headed in the wrong direction for a very long time. And what we've got to do is bring them back to reality and make those states respect the Second Amendment.
Absolutely. So, Steve, we have on the one hand Switzerland, on the other hand New Jersey, and never the twain, I guess, will ever meet, huh?
Oh no. If you were your typical anti-gun New Jersey, you would not be a happy camper in Switzerland, I can tell you.
Well, really, you'd be one of those tourists from New Jersey going to Switzerland. You go, oh my, what's going on? Everyone has a gun. What's going on?
Right. They carry their rifles on their shoulders. They don't even use rifle cases.
Oh my God.
You see them on motorcycles and trains, at train stations, everywhere you go. And in fact, if you just drive around the country, you see target ranges. I've only seen one golf course in the whole country, and it was by a shooting range. And I lost count of how many shooting ranges I've seen there.
So I take it that Paul Helmke won't be vacationing in Switzerland
No.
anytime soon.
He ain't going there.
I mean, when I visit the country, I always kind of keep an eye on the Japanese tourists. It's a popular place for Japanese tourists, and everywhere you go, I mean, now and then you'll hear gunfire, and you always think, well, what are they thinking? I mean, they come from a country where it's verboten to have guns, and here they are. You're hiking in the Alps, or you're just about anywhere, and you hear gunfire.